Welcome to the Environmental Transformation Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Grady, and today's guests are Eliot Cooper from Cascade Environmental, Dr. Bradley Droy from and Craig Bruno from Landmark Environmental. And we're going to talk about in-situ chemistry evaluations and the selection process. So, gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
This is good. Well, I'm glad we had this panel discussion going on today. Guys, there's a lot of talk in the industry about how do we do remediation in a more sustainable way. In situ is one big way to do it. And what we wanted to talk about is what really goes on in bringing new chemical amendments to the market and what that journey looks like for, manufacturers and for contractors who actually, are using this product, and, the consultants who are actually, evaluating these options and selecting them for remedies. So guys, let's dive in. I'll let you guys talk a little bit about yourself, but, Brad, if you could, you're from T. Why don't you talk a little bit about, your company, what services you offer, give the listeners a little bit of background on who you are and what you guys do.
Yes, thank you, Sean. TEA, it stands for Toxicological and Environmental Associates. I co-founded the firm back in 1996, and we were always looking for ways in which to combine risk assessment and remediation together.
Mm-hmm.
So risk-based remediation. In those days, the risk assessment rules were in full bore, and also there was a explosion of in situ remedial technologies that were really just starting. And in fact, if you think back 27 years ago, when I co-founded the company, bioremediation was kind of a newbie, if you will. And so natural attenuation was on the scene, but really our understanding of bio, especially the bioremediation of chlorinated solvents, was in its infancy. And so some of my clients, that when we first started the company, they were chlorinated solvent manufacturers, and so they had a great interest in that.
So the types of products you guys are manufacturing is iZVI is one called. It's the emulsified zero valent iron. Is that correct?
That's correct. That was a NASA patent in the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
And that particular product, I was at a conference in Orlando. I think it was in 2003, is the off-year Battelle conference, and Dr. Jackie Quinn, who was the inventor of the technology, along with Dr. Sherry Yastrzebski from University of Central Florida, they invited me out for a test observation out at NASA Kennedy. And so we actually then worked with them to become a licensee of the technology. And we've been manufacturing iZVI ever since.
So what are the target compounds the iZVI really is successful at attacking and breaking down?
Primarily, it's designed for a source area treatment for chlorinated solvents. We've also seen it successful with brominated solvents, as well as chlorofluorocarbons like freons, and also carbon disulfide. We've found it to be very effective. But it's primarily designed for those particular compounds in source areas.
Okay, that sounds good. As a manufacturer of SourceKill technology, what's your evaluation process for adopting this type of chemistry when you're, evaluating, do I want to manufacture this type of material?
Yes, SourceKill, you mentioned it. That's our brand name for the emulsified zero valent iron. So, so when we're looking at a particular site, this product may not be the product for every site, every chlorinated solvent site. There's a lot of very good products out there, and I know Eliot will be talking about one in particular that can be used in other aspects of the in situ remediation with chlorinated solvents. So we'll look at also a site. We want to make sure that the source areas have been clearly defined using some of these surgical techniques that can identify where those sources are. And again, Cascade does some of that as well. and we work with companies like them to help us clearly define the problem, including the source area.
So, Brad, what type of research do you guys do to evaluate, like bench scale studies, things like that you go through to, evaluate the product, whether or not it's going to be a commercially viable product?
Yes, initially, what we were wanting to do with this particular product, the emulsified zero valent irons, it's fairly viscous. So we wanted to make sure it's going to be compatible in different lithologies from an injection perspective, right? So can you deliver the product effectively to its target? All right. And I mean, we know that the chemistry works. We've done multiple bench scale studies, and so has the University of Central Florida and NASA in the past with a variety of compounds. So the chemistry works. So the key would have been to demonstrate effectively that you can deliver it. And so far, so good in our applications. We've been able to be blessed with working with some excellent injection companies, like Cascade. Again, I'm doing an advertisement for Cascade, but anyway, but they do a very good job with this with this material. But over the years, though, we've also improved it. We've made it now where it has about half the viscosity of the original formulas,
Okay,
and about 4 times the reactivity as we've become more familiar with different types of iron to use, and making stable emulsions that can be delivered effectively.
Gotcha. So, I mean, from Craig, you're the remediation consultant here. So let's have you dive in here, because, I've done quite a few evaluations and injected EOS and other chemox type chemistries in remediation projects in my past. But from your perspective as a consultant, what are ways you're always evaluating, or how are you evaluating these types of chemistries for your addressing your groundwater contaminated sites?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, what it really comes down to, I come from a somewhat different perspective than a lot of people in the industry. I'm the end user basically of these products.
Yeah.
It's a very competitive environment. So my job really as a consultant is to evaluate the problem, figure out the most effective, least expensive, most sustainable solution to the problems. And as time goes on, the different products change, and really on a project by project specific basis, you almost surgically can pick a particular product for an exact need. Whether it be fast flowing groundwater, depth to groundwater, ability to inject the concentration of the contaminants of concern, and so on and so on. Time frame is another key, factor. And some of these products are more aggressive than others. If you have 20 years, you can do something very, very basic and very natural even, and can avoid anything aggressive whatsoever. So it's really just take it on a site by site basis, and keep on checking what's out there, and just keep on evaluating the problem at hand, and figure out new ways to help the solution.
So, Craig, I mean, I know like when you're going through an assessment of a site and their characteristics, I mean, you're really getting to the hydrogeology, aspects of these sites, and the geology functionality of, are there enough, what's the core space? How much can I really pump? I mean, aren't you doing pump tests and things like that to really evaluate what is really going to be the best solution to inject along with the type of contaminants you're trying to address?
Oh yeah, for sure. In fact, on this most recent project we did a little pilot test, because here we had 2 potential challenges. It wasn't just the ability to inject; it was groundwater was pretty deep at this site, about 35-40 feet,
Mm-hmm.
and in addition to selecting your remedial technology in terms of product, you have to figure out how you're going to deliver that product. And using a geoprobe rig, many kinds of geology, you're not going to get to a depth of 40, a total depth of 45 feet.
Right.
So we ran a pilot test. It was really a depth test to make sure we could reach the depth. We felt real confident that the product would work, and the geology was very friendly to the injection. But the main concern was, can we deliver it?
Right, right. Now that makes sense. Well, hey, Ellie, I'm bringing you into this conversation. As being, Cascade's one of the leading in-situ remediation contractors out there in the country. Why has Cascade decided to get into the the chemistry industry, or the chemistry business, should I say? You're the delivery system people, but you're also now in the business of actually marketing, selling chemistries as well. So talk a little bit about how you've done that and developed that or adopted that approach.
Yeah, well, we did it for two reasons. One, we saw a lot of our clients going with traditional approaches and chemistries that weren't getting them to the finish line. So we definitely wanted to help our clients out. And then secondly, we did it from a competitive standpoint. A lot of reagent vendors in the space started to get involved in the injection piece and starting to take away our market share. So it's really a function of both. We want to be able to compete, retain and grow our market share, and we also want to help our customers out.
Well, how have you gone about selecting the chemistries that you guys want to adopt as part of your list of, or your suite of chemistries you offer clients?
Well, we had some detailed criteria that we went through. I won't go through all of them, but one is we wanted to go after markets that are growing or still problematic. So that really fell into the solvent marketplace. And then we also wanted to have something to apply to this new emerging market of PFAS, which, by the way, EPA just proposed their formal regulation, or their
saw that today.
Regulations, and have established a PFOA PFAS limit of 4 parts per trillion, whatever that is. I know it's a low number, so we wanted to be able to play in that market, and so we basically looked at the markets and customer needs and where the growth was, and we decided that we wanted technology for the PFAS market. We wanted technology for solvents and solvent source areas. And so we elected to go with a colloidal carbon product for PFAS. And then for the source areas, we decided to team with Brad for DNAPL remediation. And then for traditional plumes and lower concentration source areas, we went with an injectable zero valent iron. So, and then we just wanted to make sure that we had persistent chemistries, because most of the remediation projects don't achieve expectations, is because the chemistries fizz out before all the mass, in whatever phase equilibrates. So that was our criteria. We want something persistent, high residence time in an emerging market, and solve some of the biggest remediation needs that our customers have.
Sure. So I'm assuming you guys also did a little bit of some, treatability studies before you selected on one or another. I mean, you guys are the geology experts with all your geoprobe and drilling capabilities. I mean, did you evaluate some of this before you said, okay, these are the ones we want to use?
Well, with Brad and SourceKill, we didn't have to do that, because we had injected it before, and we were quite familiar with its efficacy, and we saw a big opportunity to help grow market share on that product. Despite being in business for 20 years, there's a lot of turnover in the industry, and we just felt a lot of folks weren't that familiar with in-situ DNAPL treatment.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, that's good. So Hey, Brad, recently, we've heard about the train spill in in East Palestine, Ohio, based on, you know, on reviewing a case study on Cascade's website. It sounds like you guys have some similar experience. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? You want to talk a little bit about your, experience of how this might be relevant to that type of scenario?
Sure. Yes, several years ago, I guess back in around 2013 or so, we uh, got had the opportunity to get involved with the Livingston, Louisiana site, and that was the site of a almost identical, it seemed like, derailment that just happened in East Palestine, where they had cars of vinyl chloride, tanker cars of vinyl chloride being ignited, and just many different types of chemicals, a hodgepodge of different chemicals, and also the derailment happening right in the middle of town, in a small town, okay, a small blue collar, rural type town. And so anyway, last week, actually, I was sought out by the local TV station there, and I did a podcast last week on this. It was unscripted, totally off the cuff for 26 minutes, right on the spot. And anyway, that particular situation, we were able to, in Livingston, we were able to close that site out, working with an intergovernmental commission made up of the city of Livingston, the state Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality, as well as the Illinois Central Railroad. And we were able to close that site within a couple of years using a combination of toxicology, risk assessment, and SourceKill, as well as some other carbon sources and bioaugmentation cultures. So they were running out of money, and we were able to close it, and they had several $1 million that they could use then for the community. So it was a great success story, and I was hoping that something similar could be done for the folks of East Palestine.
Well, you never know. It's still probably a potential. I mean, there seems to be a lot of contamination there, although I think they are digging and hauling a bunch of waste as well to a local landfill here in Indiana, just to kind of remove some of the source.
Right.
It's been quite the controversy as well here, but yeah, no, that I mean, it sounds like there's going to be some long-term, ramifications of the material spilled there. That's probably leached to the groundwater, and so they won't be able to dig everything up, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I looked at the list. I forget everything that's listed in there, but there's vinyl chloride though is actually a little bit lighter than water.
Yeah.
So it's got a specific gravity of about 0.9, 0.92 or so. So water's 1.0. So it's not the typical sinker like you have with chlorinated solvents. So but it still can get down into the aquifer fairly cquickly, because vinyl chloride, I think there were 5 or 6 tanker cars full of that material. That chlorinated solvent happens to be more water soluble than some of the other chlorinated solvents as well. Yeah. So it could travel faster. And then also when they burned it, some of the breakdown products like acrolein and things of that nature, those can be formed. Not sure about the physical chemistry of those breakdown products, but I think they're in for a long haul there. This is something that's not going to be cleaned up in a couple of weeks. We're looking at years down the road.
Yeah, absolutely.
For remediating that site.
Yeah, no, I mean, usually when you start one of those types of projects, or any of these types of projects that have significant source material in the subsurface, it does take a long time. Craig, as a consultant here, and basically having a bit of your core services around remediation consulting, talk about what clients are looking for now. I mean, how a lot of these clients, I think, are looking. How fast can I remediate, or what can I do from a more sustainable approach instead of some active pump and treat scenarios? Talk about what you're seeing right now in the industry.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Again, a lot of this, it's about competition in the market and changing market conditions. This recent project that landmark work done with Cascade, which was a really good success. It's a good example of how all the different parts kind of come together, and the key word is faster. And why is that the key word? In this case, we happen to be working with a large property development company who owned a property that had been under remediation for almost 17 years. And we were able to get some amount of this site to residential land use standards. But there's a little pocket of groundwater, little residual that popped up. And of course, I called up Eliot over at Cascade, and we've got, 20 some odd years experience kind of working these things together. And we knew that we had to do something fast and aggressive. One of the reasons was there were so many shareholders, stakeholders. Everybody was motivated to have this just be done. And then think about the other motivating factors. We have 10, 15 acres that are available for residential development right at the time when property values are going down and interest rates are going up. So we need to start the building process sooner, much sooner rather than any later.
Yeah.
So, in this particular case, just kind of determine the feasibility of a couple different options, and weighed costs and degree of confidence, if not degree of certainty that it would work, and pretty much came up with a 6-month plan, which was how it was sold to the client.
That's pretty aggressive, right? That's pretty aggressive to knock down the source to residential levels that fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
and not just aggressive, but you have to be not only you have to be very, very, very confident in the outcome to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, talk a little bit about, how you address setting client expectations and trying to meet them, when you approach them with these remedial strategies.
Yeah, well, that was sort of the process that I was talking about, is you kind of step back and say, what is possible within, certain financial constraints, of course, and very stringent time constraints. And you just look at what conditions you have, what you have to work with, and look at different products, different technologies, different options,
Yeah.
and likelihood of success, and pretty much brainstorm with the right group of people. You get your confidence level up to 95% plus, then it's usually it's a pretty easy sell.
Yeah.
But got to deliver.
Yeah, you do. I mean, if you could real quick before we move on to the next question, but talk about how important it is to have that, that contractor / consultant relationship, having your go-to, person that, you can rely on when you're designing these remedies. I know in my past in that position, sometimes you've got contractors that perform great. Other times contractors don't perform great. And, when you're the guy that's, facing the client, it can be a challenge, can it? So talk about the relationship and that trust you build with them.
Yeah. Brings up, coins the old phrase, got to use the right tool for the job. And
Eliot, that's not a reference to you being the tool, but that's
you did catch on to that.
Well, I could jump in. I could jump in on that real quick. I had a recent example of this in the field in Florida here, and you never know what you're going to get into when you get out there in the field, and you got to trust your contractor, right, to be able to think on their feet, and Cascade did that really well for us. when we encountered some problems like that, had to really think on the fly, right, and react. And so that's an important part of this whole situation is that, you have to have the right team together. You have to really balance client expectations, but let the client know that you're going to run into it's always going to happen in the field, right? You're going to run into something. And, but on the other hand, on the backside, we were able to negotiate with the regulators to change the course of action a little bit and make some adjustments. And so it's a total team effort when you get there with your client, the regulators, the contractors that you all have in place, as well as the products that you're using.
Yeah. It is critical that the teamwork when you find the right people, especially people in certain niches, and when you've been in this industry for a while, as all of us have. The people that you need to hold on to, and at the end of the day, those are the ones where you're in a really tough spot. You pull out all the right people and get the right heads together and get it done.
I gotta imagine from like Eliot in your position, they come to you and, hey, I'm in a crisis. What can you do, man? I need your help, brother. Usually if you've got some experience working with somebody like that, and it's always been good and positive, and you've had some success, you're probably more willing to jump, hoops and respond quicker, or at least, meet the bell, so to speak, than other people that are just new to you.
Yeah. My perspective has always been, excuse me, to always propose what I think is the best solution and not, face reality. So that's always been critical to build confidence. And then, the other piece of it is, assume that it's your money that's being spent. So that's a whole different perspective than spending the client's money. And so, when we go into a project, really, we're part of the solution, and we want to be the part that, helps facilitate it. And if we have something that's not going to work, or it's iffy, or it's a Hail Mary, sometimes customers have to go that route just to keep the regulators happy. But yeah, I think it's just a transparent, open, and honest relationship to get these things done.
Well, so Eliot, what other technology advancements have you guys at Cascade, looked at that, in addition to, say, SourceKill and the the iZVI and other what other chemistries are you looking to address or attack solvent sites?
So one of the things we're doing is we're looking at a combined remedy of colloidal carbon with a reductant. Okay. So there is some pushback about total sequestration of contaminants, although it's being done all over the U.S. and many sites have closed. But it's a little easier sell where you can combine treatment with the sequestration, and in some cases the carbon actually acts as a catalyst or an activator. So we are looking for more dilute solvent areas to integrate reductive chemistries in with the carbon. We've also added some proprietary patented approaches to keep carbon in the injection zone. We work so hard to make it mobile and make it flow through the pore space that some cases it doesn't stop. And so we've got access to a patented technology that allows us to drop out the carbon in the treatment areas. So those two are the ones we're looking at on the carbon side. We're really not looking at anything else related to the SourceKill. That's a well-proven product, and one of the only ones that has efficacy for DNAPL outside of the thermal remediation services that we provide. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then we're also looking at trying to move towards the source area of PFAS because those are going to be higher concentrations. And so we're working with our carbon and oxidants and higher kinetics with low temperature heating to see if we can come up with a good solution for PFAS treatment in source areas like, underneath the triple AFFF firefighting pit, something like that. But right now, that's pretty much it. And we've got our hands full with those, I can tell you that.
Sure, sure. Yeah. Well, hey, Brad, I mean, what type of challenges have you faced, growing the universal, SourceKill adoption of DNAPL at sites? I mean, is it the silver bullet for DNAPL sites? And if it is, what's any challenges of, getting it out there, that message out there to people?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. It's always been a source of my frustration through the years because, as Eliot had just mentioned, it is very effective for these source areas. And really, right when it was patented, I believe the patent was in 2002 originally, and it just recently expired now in 2022. But there were such a flux of products that hit the market. And I think that the end users could easily get confused with the multiple products that were available to choose from. And every consultant would come along and tell them one thing and another and another and another. And so what got lost in the shuffle, I think, was this emulsified zero valent iron. That it's actually a hydrophobic chemistry compared to many others that were more hydrophilic and water loving in their approaches. So the iZVI, the SourceKill, behaves like a DNAPL. It's got a specific gravity of about 1.08. So when you inject it, it's heavier than water. And it also is very effective at promoting the desorption of the contaminant from the clay matrices as well. So you're not going to see perhaps the rebound that you can see with some of these other types of materials that are injected, especially oxidants in source areas, that you might have to go apply in cases, but you may have to. So it would overcome those sorts of concerns as well as pH concerns. What we're also looking at doing is slipstreaming in bioaugmentation cultures with it to help clean up and polish, because the SourceKill itself is really iron, zero valent iron, vegetable oil, water, and a surfactant. And so it's very green, if you will, very green technology. And with the vegetable oil, that's a lot of carbon that you're putting into the ground. So you want to utilize that carbon as well over time, so the bacteria can benefit from the presence of that extra organic carbon that you're delivering. So you can actually get both an abiotic reaction and a biotic reaction from that injection. So like a double whammy, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's good. So it's, a lot of it's just like getting the word out, talking about the functionality and how the SourceKill actually works. So you break down how this material actually remediates the actual DNAPL in the subsurface, and then just communicating and then showing results of how it's really effectively done that. I'm assuming that's a lot of the challenges that you're trying to communicate to, it's with case studies and things like that to get that word out there.
Yes, this is really the reason why we changed the name from iZVI, if you will, to SourceKill. Okay,
yeah.
So
it's a great name,
because there's a lot of I thought of that, by the way. I came up with it in the middle of the night or something. Right?
You woke up like, I got it.
I got it. Ding, SourceKill. Well, that's what we're doing. And but the products, and where the confusion is with this term ZVI. You got iZVI. Well, everybody's thinking ZVI. Well, this is not necessarily true because it's encapsulated inside of a micelle, and it kind of is protected from reacting with everything in its brother once you inject it, right? So when it becomes in contact with the chlorinated solvent, it kind of there's a dissolution reaction that happens just physically, where then the chlorinated solvent is exposed to the iron and it can't escape. So then you have that beta elimination reaction that's going to happen abiotically, and where you're going to get the cleaving of the chlorine atoms off of your compounds.
How long does this product last, once it's injected into the subsurface?
Yeah, it's going to stay where you inject it pretty much too. It's not going to be traveling very far, and but it's going to be effective for at least a couple of years, I would think. But actually, we've never had to repeat an injection, all right, in 20 years. One of our first largest injections that we did was at Patrick Air Force Base in Florida in a 62,000 gallon injection. And it was designed for 2 injections, but we only had to do 1. It was done.
So you guys basically, inject the material, kind of create a passive barrier wall for the groundwater to flow through it, and it's breaking down the chemicals that way. Is that kind of the picture here?
Yeah, we target a minimum of 10% of the pore space, so you're still going to get water flow through the site.
Yeah.
Right? Anything over 20% pore space is not necessary. In fact, I think Patrick was a 25% pore space injection. That's probably why we only needed 1 injection at that site, because we put a lot down there. Yeah, that's right. It kind of it's almost like a passive reactive barrier, if you will. It creates a biologically reactive and an abiotically reactive zone in the groundwater.
Gotcha. Say, Craig, when you look at trying to grow your remediation business, how important is it to, have some case studies or some good project examples where you can point to in situ, sustainable remediation projects to help, convince clients that you're working with that, you've got the experience and you've got, you know how to do this.
Yeah, that the past successes are really the key. There's almost no other way to sell it. You can sell it in theory, but if you have a track record of successful projects, it's what it comes down to is best results, lowest cost, and shortest time. And if you can get those results again and again and again, and have a resume behind it, and you have that level of confidence in yourself, your team, and your clients ultimately will get that same sense of confidence and take you up on believe your credibility and more often than not get the job, even if it's something a little outside the box as far as they're concerned, from where they're coming from. But you can convince people for their own good of things that they may not have thought of before, and but you have to have a resume showing that it works and how it works and how well it worked and why it'll work again.
Yeah, I gotta imagine most clients these days, they're really not looking at active systems anymore to address groundwater contamination like SVE wells or pump and treats or even source dig and haul type. They really are looking for this in situ strategy, aren't they? Is that really the main focus these days?
Yeah, it's all about innovation because and one of the main drivers, of course, is cost. Installing a pump and treat system, maintaining a pump and treat system, the cost of electricity for running a pump and treat system, the chemicals, the price for the chemicals for treating the groundwater,
The waste.
Example. The waste. It just goes on and on and on.
Yeah,
the whole process from top to bottom, and construction and materials.
Sure.
And the more innovative you can get and sustainable, the better. It brings costs down, and one of the great benefits of these in situ technologies, especially when conditions are just right, is they become self-perpetuating for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
I think one of the first ones that Eliot and I did together many years ago. We got, I think, 6 years out of one pretty inexpensive injection. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that also shut down a pump and treat system. So
big cost savings.
Yeah, huge. Yeah.
And I got to imagine, I mean, that's when you're trying to convince a client of, what the value and the benefits are of in situ versus these actives. The ROI and the cost savings associated with everything else it's probably pretty easy to demonstrate for them to convince them to go that route. And I know regulators are looking for that as well. Regulators are really, driving, these types of alternatives versus active things. That's good to know. Brad, I guess Eliot, maybe you guys could talk a little bit about this, but what challenges have you guys experienced, since COVID? The supply chain of getting products, did you have any problems getting, products manufactured or delivered to customers? Any pricing challenges with that because of COVID?
Oh yeah, all kinds. So everything that was an ingredient or a process, everything would slow down. And then trying to get a handle on transportation costs was another unknown where, somebody's asking for a bid and they want the transportation cost. And, that was all over the map. So things are settling down. Brad and I saw specific supply chain issues related to zero valent iron, one of the ingredients. So yeah, COVID had a significant impact, and it's not over yet. But I think the market and the industry is right now realizing a pretty significant increase in amendment costs for in situ remediation from COVID. Brad?
Yeah, I had a real concern with the surfactant for whatever reason. That is a small component of our product, but gosh, trying to secure surfactant was a nightmare.
Yeah.
And especially we had a big project with Eliot rolling and where are we going to get this? And we were able to get it, but we had to, spend more for it. And then the shipping costs, of course, then you had the cost of diesel going up off the roof. Right. And what the heck is going on there? So, you're trying to, you're bidding the job, 6 months before? And
then right now you got to adjust pricing and say, hey, client, we gotta, this isn't right. We can't take on this stuff.
Yeah, that guy's rich. He can handle it. It's not true. Our margins are not that great. And so I can't imagine what these restaurants are doing, right? And how they're, they're selling eggs, right? And, omelets, forget it. So anyway, it's still there. You kind of it's kind of a new normal now, isn't it? Everybody's used to putting that $3.50 gas in their cars again, right? And,
then imagine the scenario with the, if we were doing something like installing a pump and treat system rather than its in situ solution, the supply chain issues that hit you there when you need PLCs and all kinds of computer electronics and this stuff where, we can order it. It'll be in 12 to 15 months. So, it's hit the industry hard, not just, the in situ product market.
So I guess this is a question for Brad and Eliot, you guys again. How are you guys differentiating your chemistries to customers from any other competing product that may have similar claims, that it's just as good or it, does these things? What's the differentiator here for you guys?
Well, one is, obviously there's technical differentiators and we can debate those all the time, but, obviously we think there's some technical advantages. The other one for us is transparency. So we're not into the black box, kind of here, take this and it'll work. So we like to be very transparent on design and work with design with our customers. So I think that's a big difference. And then the ability for us to offer them in a turnkey fashion. So, we're not only selling the chemistry, but we're helping characterize the site and we're also helping injected through, different technology. So that's pretty much our value proposition to the industry.
Yeah. Any guarantees you guys throw out there for, source remediation with the products that I've heard other chemistry companies to kind of guarantee things? I mean, is there anything you guys go to that extent?
Well, I just wrote a blog today on guarantees that we're going to post on our website. So
okay, a little good timing here.
You'll want to read that because I opine on, remediation guarantees and are they worth the cost. So I'll save that answer for later.
Okay, good.
I'll have to read it. I'll have to read that because when I'm asked that question, I always give the same answer. No, I don't guarantee it. I don't guarantee it. But then I'll follow it up and say, but this product has never failed in its application. All right, to date. Okay, so in fact, that was enough for the mayor of Livingston, Louisiana, when he asked me that question. He said, "Brad, you gonna guarantee this for me? That we can get this done?" And I said, "No." And I think what that does is, and kind of a follow up to Eliot's answer, you got to build that trust, right?
Yeah.
With your client, and we don't just use SourceKill. We use a variety of products in our site, on our sites, and if SourceKill is the right product, we'll use it, of course, but we're not going to push that down everyone's throat.
As a follow-up, kind of like, what do you guys see this infrastructure funding, that's coming down through the Biden administration? How do you see that impacting, your companies with addressing these types of opportunities?
It's a little unclear. A lot of it's going to upgrading wastewater treatment facilities and upgrading water treatment for PFAS, and abandoning orphan oil and gas wells and replacing lead pipes. And a lot of it's been targeted towards brownfield remediation. But right now, the biggest influence we've seen is, continued investment in Superfund, and a lot of Superfund sites moving that were dead in the water, especially on the thermal remediation side. EPA really jumped on getting the thermal projects that were, on hold, getting those moving again. So for me right now, it's really been the Superfund funding that's been the most influential. But we'll see what happens, how that PFAS money is doled out to different markets.
Yeah, I definitely think they need to upgrade some water treatment infrastructure to address these low-level PFAS concentrations that they're going to be expecting people to meet, especially from communities that are exposed by PFAS, contaminants in drinking water. It's just sad to see some of these communities either knowingly or unknowingly being exposed to those chemicals, and there's a lot of health effects associated with them. So,
yeah, I just read an article today. Some resident was complaining that she couldn't get any relief because she had 6.9 parts per trillion of PFAS in her groundwater, and the standard in North Carolina was 10. So her neighbor 2 blocks away was getting all kinds of funding and assistance because she was at 10. But she couldn't get any because she was at 6.9. But I think she'll be happy now because EPA just proposed 4. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah. Well, what's sad is when you see, public utilities having to spend all this money to address these PFAS, treatment requirements, and then passing those costs on to residents who had nothing to do with the PFAS contamination to begin with, and they're the ones having to foot the bill when the polluters are not really being held accountable to the extent that needs to be. It seems like in a lot of cases to address these treatment facilities for these communities. It drives me crazy when I see that.
Yeah, well, I think some of the funding is going to alleviate some of that taxpayer burden, but eventually, some of it does roll down to the taxpayer. So,
yeah. Well, hey guys, this has been really good. I'm really glad you guys came on the show today. I think there was a lot we covered on, in situ sustainable remediation technologies. Looks like this SourceKill is a really great product. And I think, having good, proper site characterization and evaluation of alternatives is great. And you got to have a partner to actually get it into the area, which is, Cascade's got the capabilities to do that injection. Really appreciate you guys come on the show to talk about this today. So, we'll get this out to the listeners, and, feel free to share in your social media networks and whatnot. And for those listening today, anyone who goes up on my website and signs up for our email distribution, I'm going to pick a lucky winner to receive a free environmental transformation t-shirt. So, so anybody who listens to this, feel free to sign up, and next week I'll pick a winner and we'll announce on the next show. Well, for now, thanks for listening, guys. Really appreciate you all coming on the show.
Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, guys. Thank you,
Brad.